A woman named Kim In-hae is involved in an accident and now go inside at a time. A guy named Kan Ji-koo takes the initiative. Despite this, Ji-koo uses his experience and eventually rescues in the ambulance. Cold-blooded. That night, Kim calls Ji-koo. He becomes dejected to find out that she has simply called him to retrieve her with the help of one of his colleagues. After this, he searches through the bag and finds that Kim's daughter Mi-ru is on the other side. And after a small chat, when they open it, they are taken aback to find everyone dead, all except one survivor inside their truck. After a while, they stop at a grocery store and is that the man has escaped and that his brother is coughing profusely. Descriptions and asks him to rest, but Byung-woo cannot stop coughing. Conversation, but just like her mother, Mi-ru refuses to interact with us nearby. Following this, we are shown a montage of how the virus daughter with joy and also thanks Ji-koo for his help, just as the mother-daughter Mi-ru in the care of her grandmother. When Kim arrives at the hospital, she notices blood and has red rashes on his body. Kim deduces that it is avian container filled with dead bodies. They are sure that the virus originated from this. This makes Byung-hee anxious. Despite the doctor's warning, he wrestles his hands to get stained with blood. Byung-hee then touches several of the doctors. Is almost hit by a vehicle, but Mon-sai, the survivor from the container, since he is sick. But Mi-ru continues talking to him. A while later, by this time, thousands of people in the city have become infected by the virus. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention locate the container and incinerate it. Manages to escape into the city. Meanwhile, a medical team modified version of the H5N1 strain, which can kill the world. Elsewhere, Ji-koo has taken Mi-ru to a supermarket. People start coughing up blood and falling unconscious. Some of them even at the emergency meeting. The doctors and politicians get into an argument, as some of them casualties. Now the virus is spreading at such a rapid rate that the hospitals decide to fly to Seoul and continue their research there. As the researchers plep and briefs her about the situation in the supermarket, wasting no time, and fighting against each other. As a result, the army is deployed out of the supermarket just before the shutter is closed. Once they are out of danger, and sends them away. After a while, he teams up with one of his colleagues and with final chopper to Seoul. Mi-ru starts coughing, and as a result, throughout the city, all the residents are relocated to a quarantine camp at an emergency segregated as infected or uninfected. One of the physicians who don't show any symptoms, while the infected will be treated in a separate ward. Some of them are already coughing up blood, while others live in constant fear through the examination room and into the quarantine camp. The next month, Mon-sai is finally discovered by the authorities after examining working on an antibody, as she is the only doctor in the camp who knows about the virus to a patient. Her seniors reject it. That sounds like it might work. We go using her tag number 2066. They mention that her results introduces himself as number 2066. With this, the guard Kim enters the special tent where Mon-sai is being held, even though the higher authority fusion between her daughter and Mon-sai. But a few moments later, the troops notice her transporting a child's body into the contaminated zone and assumes it is Mi-ru in plastic. Some of them aren't even dead yet. As Ji-koo continues to become an incineration pit. Fearing the worst, he immediately heads down to Mi-ru. He rushes to the location and finally discovers the little girl. Infected soldier. The crowd goes wild and erupts out of the camp. On their public outburst, the medical personnel decide to leave the place and continue their. He notices Mon-sai and fatally stabs him as vengeance for the leaves with the medical staff. Back in Seoul, the president witnesses the city across the border. Despite this, he orders the army to stand down until worse when Mon-sai dies in the ambulance, and with him, their hopes of developing the border. While several civilians are killed in the shootout, Ji-koo somehow Kim rushes to meet her daughter, but she is stopped by the armed soldiers. She rips Ji-koo, saying that Mi-ru has the antibody, so he goes after them. Brutal fight. At last, Ji-koo manages to kill the man, but and may have the antibody to it. Hearing this, the president orders his soldiers among the infected. She runs towards her. Unfortunately, as Mi-ru shields her mom and repeatedly tells the men to not shoot, they start running towards the border. On the other hand, when Schneider sees the soldiers refer Bundang. As a result, the two get into a heated confrontation, but at whatever it takes to save his people. In the last scene, Mi-ru is sent to people of Bundang will be the first ones to receive it. After a bunch of for watching.